Right now, in this very moment, I am currently reading 4 books. So I'm reading Contagious, Slay in Your Lane, The Psychology of Money, and The Unfair Advantage. Some of these books I've been reading since last year, some of them I just picked up. And guess what? It's okay if I don't actually end up finishing them. It's okay to decide not to finish a book, and it's also okay to read multiple books at the same time. For a long time, I felt like you had to finish any book you picked up. I felt like it was morally reprehensible that you pick up a book, you open it, and you don't actually finish it, or you just sit there. And I felt like I couldn't pick up any other book. So if I was reading one book, I couldn't at all. Like, it was absolutely not allowed for me to pick up another book. And it serves no purpose to pick up a book and feel like you have to finish it. Why are you giving a book hours and hours and hours of your time if you're not enjoying it, if you don't find it interesting, and you're not learning anything from it? Put it down, and that's okay. And if you're someone that's finding themselves picking up books and not finishing it and feeling really guilty about it, then I've got a few ways that might help you overcome that fear and overcome that guilt. A few ways that also will make you spend less money on books that we're not reading. Cough, cough. And if you enjoy this kind of video, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more from me. And let me know down below, what book are you currently reading? You guys saw what I'm reading right now, okay? I'm quite typical, aren't I? Let me know what you're reading right now. I'd love to know. Okay, number 1, I use the library a lot. Learn to love the library. Learn to be someone that goes to a library, picks up a ton of books, skims through them, starts to read it, puts it down, decides it's not for them, and then if you really love a book and you're getting into it and you feel like you want to have this in your collection and you want to own it, then you can go and buy it. So many of us are guilty of going to bookshops, buying 6 books that we're like, ooh, that'll be interesting. Ooh, I saw someone talk about that. Oh, that's really good. And then you get home and it doesn't leave your bookshelf, or like you now have this really long list of books that you haven't even picked up and you just wanted to try it out and see how it felt. And also the flip side, you know, that you might go to a library and see some books. They usually have like a table of books of like recommended by the librarian, and you can pick a book up that you probably wouldn't have maybe picked up in the bookshop, try it out, and you might absolutely love it. You never know. And I think this is a really good way of being less wasteful and definitely saving money as well. But if you do have a pile of books that you feel like you're not really reading, then try to swap books with a friend. Maybe have like a little book club where you say, right, I'm gonna read this book from you, you can read that book from me, and at least it's kind of going around in a cycle, and so books aren't just being wasted and money isn't being wasted. The second is to change genres and change like themes of what it is that you're reading. You can probably see that I've got it's a slight little range that I'm reading right now. I've got Contagious, which is like kind of about business, and then I've got The Unfair Advantage, Psychology of Money. There's a kind of more self-helpy books, and then I've got Slay in Your Lane, which is a little bit more of a I guess biography, like race, like inspirational kind of kind of book. So they're kind of different. And there's some moments like I'm on the tube and I'm like, what should I read? And I might have brought this book up because I really want something that's gonna give me that inspiration, and I want to kind of like understand and listen and be taught something. Whereas I might just feel like, oh, you know what, let me just read The Unfair Advantage. And this is my commuting book because it's just something different. Like, it's gonna give me information and business advice that I don't really need to be like super focused for. And it's important to know like your mood and kind of relate that mood for what books you want to read. If you're in the mood to read something uplifting and inspirational, then you should have a book that you're currently reading for that. And if you're in the mood for something else, you can read a different book. And that is why I have so many books on the go. I actually have more than this, by the way, currently on the go, because it just means that like when I'm in a mood, if I'm in bed and I want to have a quick read, I don't want to necessarily read about the psychology of money. Like, who wants to read that? I want to read something a bit more like fun and like something that's gonna make me calm and cozy and get me into bed. The third is to give books a chance in different formats. So typically, you know, we're used to having print, we're used to having like hard copy of books, but if you're someone who finds it difficult to like carry the book with you and take it out everywhere, sometimes I actually don't want to take my books out because I'm like, oh, I just just have a 1 hour journey. But then when I'm at the place that I'm going to, I don't want to have to carry around this book with me because I don't have a bag that's big enough. So then I end up not reading as many books as I want to, because I now have this journey where I want to read, but I can't carry this book around. So actually giving a chance like to the Kindle, or like having it on your phone, and just reading it, or having like the audiobook version, something like Audible would be great for this, where you can, instead of reading the book, listening to it will help you get through it. I also feel like sometimes books are more epic when they are listened to on audio, so that can also help. The next is to use book short summary websites and apps. The one I can think of is Shortform, and this is a website that allows you to preview and kind of get a book summary of that book. So rather than like buying The Unfair Advantage, which by the way I highly recommend if you're into business and you want to hear it from a UK British perspective, because I feel like all these other books like The 4-Hour Workweek and those books are all like from Americans, and we have a very different tone in the UK. So I do like this, by the way. If you want to buy a book, rather than buying it and then discovering it's not for you, you can go to Shortform, for example. There's other ones out there too, and they can give you a summary of the book, and you can decide on whether the key points are key points that you want to learn. So this, for the unfair advantage, it might say something like using your unfair advantages to help you like propel your career, and being able to do XYZ, being able to pitch, being able to like raise investment. And if that's not something you're interested in, then maybe this book isn't for you. So use those websites to help you determine whether a book could work for you, and if you may or may not be interested in it. The fifth is let go of what others think. And like, I'm going to be offending BOOKTOCK, is that what you call it? BOOKTOKers? Because, you know, there are so many books that go through BOOKTOCK, or Bookstagram, or whatever, BOOKTUBE, and people, you know, these are books that you have to read. Everyone's reading it right now. If I don't read it, like, I'm being left out, FOMO. And if you don't like this book, you're obviously not right in the mind, etc. And it's actually can get quite violent. Like I've seen what can go down that side of the TikTok, or YouTube or Instagram. So I think just like, if you see a book, it's very tempting, everyone's reading this book, it's very tempting to feel like, oh, I have to finish this book because everyone's reading it. That's not the case. Like, let go of what other people think. There's actually a quote that says, if you only read the books that everyone else is thinking, then you can only think the way that everyone else is thinking. And it's from an author called, I have to read it because I forgot, Haruki Murakami. I butchered that, I'm sure. But the point is that if we're only reading if we're all going to read the same books, then we're all going to be thinking the exact same way. Surely variety and diversity in thinking and thoughts is important. So forget what other people are thinking. If you feel like, oh, I'm not finishing this book, then just let it go. Like, maybe it's not for you, and that's okay. And the last tip that may help you finish books or not finish books is assigning books for different contexts. So I think I mentioned something similar above, to like having different books that I read at different times of the day, and different moods, but it's really about being contextual as well, and just understanding like, this book is something that is about business and entrepreneurship, and it's something that I want to not read on the weekend. And so if I'm going to pick this up on the weekend, I'm not going to finish it because I'm not in that mood. Like, I don't want to be reading about what is in here. There's no wealth like, this is a nice one. I haven't got this far. There is no wealth like knowledge, no poverty like ignorance, from Ali ibn Abi Talib. How did it get this far? Why have I not got this far? Do you see what I mean? I started this book last year when I was pregnant. This was my book that I took to my scans, my pregnancy scans, and I sat there reading this book, and the sonographer said to me, that's a good book. And we bonded over this book before he scanned me. Anyway, point is, use context. So this is a book that is about business, and like, do I want to read this at this time of the day? Do I want to read it in this way? Do I want to read it as an audio book when I'm out? Like, how do I want to read this book? So having like contextualizing your books and contextualizing the moments when you want to read them is also really important. But yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. Putting a book down is absolutely fine. We are not obligated to finish a book, and I know that it feels really wrong to start a book, read a few pages and say, oh, this isn't for me. It's actually okay. But the problem occurs when you've now bought 20,000 books and you're reading 2 pages in, and you don't like the book. So I would recommend using some other tips I mentioned above to be able to reduce the chances of that happening, and meaning that you really have a curated bookshelf of books that you truly love and you truly cherish and you actually want to read again and again and again and pass down to your kids and lend to your friends and family. So I highly recommend curating your bookshelf. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a huge thumbs up, and like I said, leave me a comment, let me know what are you reading right now, and are you someone who doesn't put a book down? Like, are you someone who gets through the book from start to the end regardless of how you feel about it? If you're that person, let me know. Let's make a club for those that struggle to not finish books, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.